everybody.
Hello. Welcome to San Francisco. I got here a couple of days before you did, so welcome.
What kind of, your government says we want to keep on working on the Indo-Pacific strategy, but concretely, in terms of tangible kind of results that we can get from this week, what can we expect concretely?
Well, let me just sort of set a little bit of the frame, if you allow me. We're here for APEC, so the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation. Many of the countries and economies that are part of APEC are very much our trading partners and part of Canada's Indo-Pacific strategy. I thought that the meetings we had good outcomes coming out of there, because for me, what's really important for Canadian businesses, it's that I, as a government with other governments in this region, create the right conditions for collaboration and cooperation that allows businesses to have confidence to grow in this region. I was just in Japan last week with a trade mission. Here I had a number of meetings in addition to APEC, a number of meetings with our bilateral partners. Indonesia, for example, where we're negotiating an agreement. ASEAN countries, for example, where we're also negotiating an agreement, but a number of really important meetings that ultimately just creates confidence for Canadian businesses to diversify and grow into these markets.
Is that it, just confidence? Like, is there something more tangible than that?
Well, I mean, when a number of businesses that are here in APEC, so APEC is it's the business leaders that every APEC country has that advise their respective governments. APEC was here. I had an opportunity to meet with many of the Canadian businesses that are here, and I won't speak to their specific business and their trade and investment deals, but suffice it to say is that the businesses that I have certainly met have found it incredibly valuable, because they are here looking to grow their business and expand in the Asia-Pacific region, the Indo-Pacific region. So it is beyond confidence, absolutely. But it is something very important that governments can do between governments, because what do businesses tell me? Having rules that they know of, that they can count on, creates a predictable business environment for them to operate in, and that is what they look to their governments to do.
Are we closer to joining the Americans' Indo-Pacific Economic Framework? They have said they would welcome Canada to join. Have they extended that invitation? And if not, why is that?
Well, I welcome the opportunity to join when the time is right, but I would say the following. Canada enjoys probably the strongest trade relationship among the world with the United States. We have $1 trillion trading relationship that is an excellent one for Canadians. Canada is also we're also part of the CPTPP, so many of the economies that are part of IPEF are part of CPTPP. We're at negotiating tables with others who are also a part of this arrangement. I guess what I'm trying to say is that we have trading relationships, and we are doing trade with many of these economies, and including with the United States. So we welcome the opportunity to join when that time is right. But quite candidly, we're already doing the work.
There are no official bylaws with China, but are there any side meetings between officials? Are you keeping open the channels with China? Because trade is obviously still necessary.
The head of delegation for China is China's vice minister. So not my counterpart, but the counterpart to my deputy minister, also referred to in some circles as the vice minister. They had a meeting. So my vice minister and China's vice minister had a meeting, and you're absolutely right. Canadian businesses do continue to export into China, particularly agri-foods, a really important export. So we did have a meeting. They had a meeting, and it was a productive meeting.
Can I ask, just back on IPEF, because President Biden is doing a family photo tomorrow with 14 countries that won't include Canada. Apparently, according to the former secretary, they have reached a deal on supply chains and production and clean technology. Is Canada concerned that it's missing out on some innovations that are in that framework because it's not in that club?
No, because we already are a strong partner of the United States, and if you look at the agreement we have with Canada, U.S., and Mexico, there are some really strong provisions there around digital trade, trade and the environment. So in other words, an agreement and a trading relationship that actually addresses many of those things that we already have. We're working with them on AI. We're working with them on critical supply, on critical minerals. We're working with them on chips and semiconductors, and ensuring that there is a resiliency of how we develop and co-develop that supply chain. We're doing that with economies like Japan. We're doing that with Singapore. We're doing that with all of the partners who already, again, in CPTPP, have many of those elements in that trading agreement. We're at the negotiating table with other countries and economies in the ASEAN and Indonesia, and we are doing this work in tandem, or in tandem, because we actually have the trade infrastructure in place. We have it. And as I said earlier, sure, we're welcome. We'd be welcome. We'd welcome to participate at the right time. But quite candidly, we already are doing this work. We are pursuing digital trade with all of these economies already. Canadian businesses are already doing that. They can rely on rules that support them, and mechanisms that help to grow. So I guess the answer is we're doing it.
Does India not want Canada involved in IPEF? Have they said that?
Not at all. Not at all. As I said, in fact, we have support from every member of IPEF for Canada to be there. But as I said, we already have some really strong relationships. And if you take a look at CPTPP, we had a meeting. Of course, New Zealand is the chair this year. Canada will be the chair next year. And New Zealand hosted a meeting just this morning and last evening with businesses. And there we're talking about the importance of how we can continue to advance the growth for businesses, growth of businesses of all sizes. There's a lot of conversations among the countries and the economies about making sure that as we trade, we're creating opportunities that are there for those that have been underrepresented in our economies, like women entrepreneurs, like Indigenous entrepreneurs, small and medium-sized businesses. Ambassador Tai, through her leadership as the U.S. chair for APEC, did something interesting this year. She started in Detroit when we were there a number of months ago, convened labor leaders to talk to APEC trade ministers on what does worker-centric trade mean. She convened a really great roundtable of small and medium-sized businesses and talked about how is it, and she used the example of Canada, U.S. and Mexico, where we actually put in a small business chapter in CUSMA that really helps to facilitate small businesses getting into each other's economy through trade, because that's actually how you'll create jobs. And then this, and then here, what she did yesterday morning, and Canada is. Canada co-chaired it with the United States and Australia and New Zealand, and that is how do we create greater conditions for Indigenous peoples to participate in international trade. So I go back to sort of what I said a little earlier, which is we're doing the work.
What on CPTPP? I know you had a meeting, a ministerial about that today. It was the first time the British were at the table.
Mm-hmm.
But Canada, as far as I know, hasn't done the work yet to ratify the accession agreement to bring the UK in. So what's the holdup? Why hasn't that been notified to Parliament? Why hasn't that gone to committee? Why haven't you started doing that work?
Well, we are going to do that work. It's just, it's organizing sort of the House schedule, and I think everyone will agree that my colleagues and I have a number of things that need to make its way through the parliamentary procedure. But it was terrific to have the United Kingdom there today, joining the group of CPTP members. I'm thrilled to be the chair, taking over from New Zealand. I laid out our 3 priorities for our chairship of the CPTPP next year. All of us spent time with APEC members who are the business leaders, but also those as part of the CPTPP economies and countries. And our 3 priorities are: let's make sure now that the agreement has been in place for 5 years, let's make sure it works. How are we utilizing it to its full extent? Are we ensuring that the progressive elements that everyone touts as high standard and gold standard is really working? So in other words, are we really advancing women entrepreneurs to trade in our economy, small and medium-sized businesses, Indigenous businesses? So that's priority number 2, advancing that progressive trade to make sure that the benefits of this agreement really is yielding to everyone. And then the third priority for Canada is working with my colleagues across the CPTPP countries on following on the really good work that Australia has done on an accession process and to provide clarity for that. So I'm looking forward to that work. It's going to be a busy year with my CPTPP colleagues.
Thank you. I just had one more question. Just on India, is there a path back to trade talks with India? And if so, what would the conditions be for restarting those trade talks?
Well, right now, the focus for Canada is to let the work of the investigation proceed, and that's really important because and you've heard me and the government talk about how important it is that that investigation happens, given that we had a Canadian killed on Canadian soil. So we'll let that happen. I've said to Canadian businesses that it's that while they are continuing to do business in India, and my job as the trade minister is to make sure that the supports and the tools that are there to support Canadian businesses and investors in India continue to be available to them. So that's what we're doing for now.
So hold up, you're confirming the linkage between stepping back from the trade talks and the ongoing tensions?
No. What I said was that our focus is, of course, on this investigation. That work has to take place. And for Canadian businesses, what I've said to them, just to reassure them, because they expect that of their governments, that the tools that are available to them as they continue to do business and to invest and to make investments or to attract investment, that the services of the Canadian government continue to be there for them.
So we shouldn't see it as late.
Thank you.
Thanks.